Hello everyone, and welcome to lucky episode 13 of the Six-Sided Podcast. I'm your host once again, as usual, and now back from vacation, the Taxman. And you can also add off of a vasectomy to that list, because I had that done a couple hours ago, so this may be an interesting podcast, as I'm a little bit in pain, a little bit medicated, and hopefully towards the end of this thing I'll be a little bit inebriated, so anything to kill kind of the after effects of getting that little procedure done, if you will help me get through this thing. But for sure, one thing that will help me get through it is watching an episode of Impact Wrestling, which I haven't been able to do in a couple of weeks, simply based on, again, us having a vacation and just, you know, family things and whatnot. So that's why I've been absent for a little bit. Luckily, I had the last episode 11, with Jimmy a Dig on, and that was really good, and I got a ton of really great feedback on that one. And again, I want to thank Jimmy for hopping on that one with me as well. It was a ton of fun. If you haven't listened to it, it's a little bit of a long one, but trust me, it's worth it. We cover everything from the Knockouts division, where we want to see things go, what's been working for us in Impact lately, and kind of the direction that we like to see them go in the future. And then we also talk about where some of the quote-unquote stars from even last year, EC3, the Hardys, Drew Galloway, what they've done, which isn't very much, after they've left the promotion. So definitely want to check that out. Once again, you want to check out my boy Jimmy on Twitter, at JimmyADig. I also want to give a special what up to the guys that Discuss Pro Wrestling. You can find them on Twitter at DiscussPW. And I checked out their latest episode, not really just related to Impact Wrestling, but they did an episode entitled Turning Point, kind of their offshoot of their actual program that they do, and it was really good. It was it's a mix of Impact Wrestling, what's going on in different promotions, and a lot of pop culture, which I really like. Like, it's tough to sometimes just listen to a wrestling podcast that's only wrestling on one subject and that's it, because as good as a lot of the wrestling is nowadays, it's still a little bit tedious to just listen to something focused on one thing. So I really like that they are kind of going in different avenues of the way that they present their product. And listen to those guys, the banter that they have is just a ton of fun. So I highly recommend you check out, that was episode 3, Turning Point. Also check out episode 2, Crossing the Line. They're really good. The like I said, the banter between the two of them. Last time they had Big Dog on, they didn't this time. But anyways, check those guys out. At DiscussPW. And I just want to give a quick what up as well to my good friends Andre Corbeil and Robert Does Wrestling. They had a killer show on Wednesday. They did the live stream on YouTube, and I was able to watch it. I'm recording this on Friday. Maybe it'll be posted today as well. But I was able to listen to that on the plane ride back to Winnipeg. And what a great piece of audio. Two super knowledgeable guys about the business who really care about the product and care about the direction, and essentially, you know, not to overuse the term, but the impact that Impact is making, A, with their fans, and B, with the wrestling scene in general, the independent wrestling scene in general right now. So that was a tremendous piece of audio. So you definitely want to go on to Robert Does Wrestling at Wrestling Robert, and naturally you can follow my boy Andre on Twitter at Andre_Corbeil. You can also find these guys on my page as well, and if on my Twitter page as well, at 6_podcast. I will be linking them as well as the Discuss PW guys along with this initial post that I put out whenever this podcast drops. Again, hopefully it's Friday. Naturally, things happen, and depending on my state of over or under medication will depend on whether I get this out today or not, as you can imagine, I'm sure. So with all of that being said, I do have a few things that I'm going to get to later in the show. Barring that, I'm going to start my review of last night's show of Impact Wrestling. So that would be Impact Wrestling from Thursday, June the 7th. After a tremendous opening sequence video package, we get our first match of the night to kick the show off. We have a tag team championship match. The challengers, Drago and Aerostar versus the champions, DJZ and Andrew Everett, otherwise known as Z and E. Although in Canada, we would say that Z and E, which doesn't have the same effect, but that's a little whatever for myself to find amusing. So I thought this was a great match to kick the show off, actually. You always hear people criticize the high flyers, and especially Andrew Everett's been really criticized that he has no psychology in the ring, and all it is a bunch of flips and whatever. And the majority of this match was kept in the ring, which is nice to see, especially in a tag team match with four guys who are known for that high-flying style of wrestling. And I gotta say, has anybody seen DJZ wrestle better than he has lately? I don't think I've ever seen him work this good. Everything looks crisp. He sells really well. When he's hitting moves, they look like everything looks like it means something, rather than a lot of that frenetic pace. And there's just a bunch of motion for the sake of being motion instead of motion for the sake of causing damage on your opponent. I will say the one knock on this match, and I sure hope that this changes for the June tapings, but Jesus, I criticize it all the time, but just because, you especially see it in a match like this, how brutal this crowd is. And I know I've talked to Robert before, and he said it sounds louder in person. And once again, that's all well and dandy, but I'm watching this on television, right? It's a pre-recorded show. And I'm watching these guys pulling off some incredible moves. Andrew Everett hits the top rope SIA moonsault to the bottom, and it's the crowd is just dead. They couldn't care less to be there. Or DJZ hits the ZDT for the win, and just the crowd is flatter than a plate full of piss. It's so brutal, and it's got to be disheartening for the wrestlers themselves to put together a good match like this. And I'll be perfectly frank, this was a really good match for an opening spot on your weekly television program. This is exactly what you want. There's enough action, enough storytelling, and enough character investment that makes you want to watch a match like this. It just sucks that a crowd like this can take you out of enjoying a match that you should be able to sit back and say, that was really good. Or to take a good match like this one, potentially could have been a great match if the crowd would have been, half invested, but just brutal. And I've heard that the crowd for the Toronto tapings was off the hook, and I sure hope they were, because Jesus, it cannot get worse than this. I hope it doesn't in the rest of the show, that is for sure. But great match by these guys. DJZ and Andrew Everett retain the titles over the aforementioned Drago and Aerostar. So as most of you know, I usually just review the matches for a show itself. I don't usually get into the backstage stuff and whatever, but I gotta say, their video package team this year has been absolutely dynamite. And there is no better showing of this than the package that they ran after a little bit of back and forth between Don Callis and Josh Matthews, kind of running down the rest of the show in regards to the Sami Callihan, Eddie Edwards unsanctioned match that is happening later in this show. Man, that video package is a thing of beauty. So well done. The music is perfect. The pacing was perfect. The sound clips they used, you can feel how raw the emotion is. You a video package like that, if you had no idea what was going on with this feud, you would know exactly the points you needed to know. You would know exactly what's been happening. You would know exactly where it's headed. Like, just everything about it was so fantastically well done. So my hat's off to their video production team. What an excellent job putting that package together to get people invested, reinvested, or otherwise into this match tonight. Just unbelievably a really good job. Now in our next match of the night, we have another tag match. We have Cult of Lee versus LAX. And I thought that as well with the first match, this match was exactly what it needed to be. It was two teams that hate each other. It was hard hitting. It was nicely paced. There was enough spacing between all the big moves to allow everything to breathe and kind of settle out. And I just thought that LAX in this match especially looked like they had something to prove. And then you had Cult of Lee, Caleb Conley in particular, just looking like completely unhinged in the match. He's biting Santana. He's cheating. He's doing all the classic heel stuff, but doing it well to a point where you can look at him now from where he's came from in the last, let's say, 6 or 7 months. Just the progression you've seen in his character and the way that he performs in the ring, it's really impressive. He's really taken a big step in my opinion, because I thought that when he first started with Impact, I didn't think that he would ever be any kind of a player, and he has definitely found a spot to be in with Trevor Lee. So this match, like I said, was really good. Lots of hard hitting, big moves in the ring. It was all the big stuff except for Ortiz's cannonball out to the floor, which was sick, by the way. Was all in front of the hard camera. It was all done really well. And my one critique, and it goes without saying along with the first match, is just like, how much better would this match have been if the crowd was hot and everything that these guys were doing was registering? Like these guys are throwing haymakers and the crowd is dead. Or you're getting like a top rope reversal and the crowd is like, I know that some people, and I'm trying not to get all bent out of shape about this one, but it is kind of an irritant, and I'm going to, kind of go into a little bit here why it is. So you have the hard camera side crowd, right? And by the way, does anybody understand, or does anybody know why there's, I believe it's like 2 rows of people in purple shirts? I can't make out what the shirts say, and I don't get it. And they're all sitting there on their hands, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but during the course of a hard-hitting match with two teams that hate each other, and on the hard camera side, you see people going to the exits to go get a drink or whatever. It's like, Jesus, people, like, come on. Again, I hope when they're in Toronto that the crowd is more responsive and makes the matches feel more intense, more, I don't know, more enjoyable, and everything else that comes along with a hot crowd. So, with all that being said, I'm probably done ranting about crowds for this episode, because I swear I do it every week, but it's very frustrating when you see a good product. Like, I'm watching a good product on television. It just sucks that the live crowd doesn't acknowledge how good of a product that they are there watching live in person. So, I think that's all I'm going to say about that tonight, but I digress. LAX gets the win, a much needed win, because I don't think they've won an Impact in a few weeks for sure, at least. So good for them with the new boss, King. We'll see where this goes. Eddie Kingston's back in the mix, although it doesn't look like Diamante trusts him too much. But so LAX picks up the win. I would like to see Impact sort out their tag division a little bit, because you have essentially 3 strong teams now. It's, 4, OVE, LAX, Cult of Lee, and obviously the tag champs of DJZ and Andrew Everett. Now, with only 4 teams, you have way less maneuverability to not run yourself dry or keep beating the same talent over and over and over and over and over again, which is kind of what was happening with LAX and what I fear is now happening with Cult of Lee. I think they need to either bring in a couple of different tag teams like they've done now with Aerostar and Drago. But even still, like, I'm not sure what a perfect mix is, and maybe you guys have a suggestion, but I would say at least 8 credible tag teams, because then you can go 2 weeks without seeing LAX, and it doesn't feel like you're missing quality tag matches, right? You can not watch the champs defend, week in and week out and just run through the roster. You can watch OVE because they haven't been on for 2, 3, 4 weeks of television and actually enjoy them, rather than seeing the big teams just continually run through everybody, or vice versa, the same teams, like I said with Cult of Lee, I fear this is happening to them, that they're just consistently getting beat, and then what? Then they have no value, and that's the biggest problem, is if you only have 4 major tag teams and now you've devalued one, right, you see where this is going. You just, the monster kind of feeds on itself. So I would like to see them kind of sort out the tag division a little bit moving forward, and I think they'll be able to, especially with this new set of tapings and all the new partnerships that they're bringing in. But like I said, this was a good match, hard-hitting, what it needed to be, told the story, and further advances the Kingston storyline with LAX, which is obviously what it was intended to do. So our next match that we had on the card tonight was Rohit Raju versus Brian Cage. As you can imagine, this was a quick little squash match. I'm going to make mention of one thing, though, that caught me on commentary, and I'm going to talk about it now. They alluded to talking about the Desi Hit Squad, and then they never talked about them at all for the rest of the match. So we've been hearing for months and months and months that, there's a faction, the Desi Hit Squad. They are, under the tutelage of the Great Kama Singh and all this, and we've never seen them yet on Weekly Impact Television, unless it's been one of the episodes that I missed. Now, saying that, this would have been, in my opinion, the perfect time to have them come out. Could you imagine the visual would have been if, you have Brian Cage just destroy Rohit Raju, right? The lights go out, lights come back on, and he's surrounded by the Desi Hit Squad, and they just annihilate him in the middle of the ring. Brian Cage, I mean. Now you've given him a direction to go in, because now he's obviously going to go after that entire team. You give them a hell of an entrance, beating arguably the monster talent on that entire roster. And thirdly, you don't make Brian Cage look weak losing a match, right? Because it wouldn't be a match. It would just be him getting jumped by, 4 or 5 guys, whatever the actual amount is. I'm not quite sure what it is in the Desi Hit Squad. So just my little observation. I thought that could have been a direction to go, but like I said, Brian Cage wins the match. It's a quick squash. Matt Sydal comes out to essentially try and talk him out of the X Division matchup that they have next week for the title. And Brian Cage's answer is resounding no, if you will. And he just blows up Matt Sydal and leaves him laying outside the ring. Holds the title in the middle of the ring, standing tall to end the segment and head into the commercial break. Now in our main event of the evening, in the last quote-unquote match of the night, we had the unsanctioned fight of Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan. And obviously, if you've been listening to my program for the last, 11 weeks, I often talk about ways that Impact can be different than every other promotion. Things that they are doing well that are helping them stand out and helping them draw eyes and be different. And this feud, which, by the way, is the feud of 2018, without the shadow of a doubt, and probably the best feud in wrestling in the last at least 5 years, since CM Punk's been wrestling, for sure. And say what you want about, like, the whole, Bullet Club, Civil War thing, whatever. That does not hold a candle to this feud at all, period. And anyone who tries to tell me different is, I'm sorry, you're wrong. This feud is the best feud in wrestling today, and it's not even close. And the way that they are producing these matches and this storyline, and particularly this one tonight, man, this thing is like, when you're watching this, you don't even think that you're watching a wrestling program anymore, right? Like, you are caught in this. I'm like almost at a loss for words on it. It really feels like a life or death struggle. It doesn't feel like it's just two guys having a match in a ring for a belt or whatever. It's not about belts. It's not about wins and losses. It's not about prestige. It's these two motherfuckers hate each other. And Sami Callihan is just pushing and pushing and pushing. And you could just see Eddie Edwards inching and inching and inching his way to the edge of the cliff. And it's just an incredible story that they're telling. And this in particular is just an incredible piece. Once again, going back to my earlier point when I was talking about the guys doing the video packages for Impact, like, this was so perfectly executed, really well done. It was gritty, it was grimy. I loved the filming. Just the whole thing, I just sat and was absorbed by it. It was truly an incredible thing to watch. And I know I saw on Twitter a couple people were meh about the language, but you gotta understand, this is a real fight, quote unquote. So in a real fight, yeah, there's language. They're dirty, they're gritty, they're grimy. There's no rules. There is no anything. Anything goes. And you saw it. They're throwing dirt in each other's eyes. They're trying to gouge each other's eyes out. They're using whatever's around them to try and essentially kill the other person. And just wow. If you watch nothing else from this past week's Impact Wrestling, watch this segment. You will not be disappointed. It's incredible. The way that they've taken an unfortunate accident and have made two legitimate superstars out of it is unbelievable, and built two characters that week in, week out, well, not that they're on every week, but you understand where I'm going with this. You need to tune in to see what they're going to do next, right? You have to follow them on Twitter because you want to see what they have to say next, right? You want to know what's going on with them because it's so compelling. It just fantastically done. And my hat's off to Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards. Just two incredible talents. And just like, man, they have lightning in a bottle, and this is just incredible. What a journey, and they got a long ways to go on this, I have a feeling. And just once again, this whole feud has been incredible, and this segment tonight was no different. So hats off. What a great way to end this week's episode of Impact. So that being said, just this week, I know a couple of people were down on last week's Under Pressure. Again, I'm not going to get into it because I wasn't able to fully watch it and appreciate it, being on vacation, but I thought this week's episode was tremendous. It told just enough story to keep you going into next week. It furthered a couple of different angles, right? Namely LAX with Kingston, and now once again you're getting your Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan fix, and you're progressing everything further towards Slammiversary. So great episode this week. Once again, I cannot say enough good things about the way that they constructed and laid out that last segment. It just, wow. Like, literally, I'm at a loss for words with how good that was. So every week, I think that, you know, they've taught themselves with the direction that they're going with this Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan feud, and each time they just blow my mind and go somewhere completely different with it and do something I didn't expect. So what else can I say but hats off. Really, really good episode this week. Alright, so before I get out of here for this evening, partly because a lot of my meds are kicking in and beers are starting to hit a little bit, so I don't want to get all loopy trying to bang this last part out for y'all, but on the plus side, I'm not feeling my surgery as much as I was before, but partly I believe that's because I've been sitting on a goddamn couch for however long today. But anyways, just want to give a quick shout out just before I get out of here. The guys that discussed PW, go check out. They have like I said at the start of the show, they have a brand new video out. But they do the weekly reviews as well. But I love the specialty shows that they do. So once again, check them out. I mentioned that at the top of the show. I would be remiss to talk about Corey B. I honestly just started listening to his stuff. When I was on vacation, somebody tagged me in one of his things, and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna throw it in my history, or like my watch later gimmick, whatever you call it, on YouTube there. And then I look, and okay, now he's got 2. Oh wait, now he's got 4. So all of a sudden, I had about an hour and change worth of videos, and I've been slowly going back in his catalog there. But OMG, Corey B, check him out on YouTube. He had a fantastic idea at the end of his video about all of us YouTube talents that kind of get into the Impact reviews, kind of tagging each other as we go along, posting our reviews. So I'm going to get into the habit of that as well. Corey, that was a fantastic idea. Everybody go check him out on YouTube. Once again, O.M.G, Corey B. The dude said he's gangster. What can I say? It's absolutely a treat to listen to him. I've listened to 4 now, and yeah, I think I'm going deep in the catalog with him for sure. So once again, I also got to shout out everybody at the website, www.wrestlingwithwrestling.com. Whether you're into Impact, hopefully you are, because that's why you're listening to me. Although maybe you just like listening to me talk, which is a treat too, so I'm going to keep that up. But we got all your Impact, Ring of Honor, WWE, New Japan news, whatever you need, they got it. There's a ton of different talent, different perspectives, which I like, and different types of shows. Like, Andre's got all sorts of interviews. My man Chuck P is just, all the time he's doing his untold stories of projects. You got Black Wrestlers Matter. Just the amount of talent on that website. Not saying that other websites don't have talent, because once again, like I've said, I've been getting into a lot of different things, and the Discuss Pro Wrestling Guys website again is one that's just like, it's incredible. You can go on there, just a ton of intelligent people talking about what they love best about Impact Wrestling and wrestling in general. And like I kind of said at the start of the show, like, what a great time right now to be a fan, or to even just get into it. Like, the direction the company is going is incredible, and really, I'm kind of like you guys. I'm just along for the ride, and I've said this a bunch of times. If I didn't enjoy the product and enjoy conversing with everybody and all of that comes with it, then I wouldn't be doing this. And this episode notwithstanding, I've just been blown away by the direction that this new company has been going, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Hopefully you stick with me for more of them, and we can continue this ride together. So, like I said, from here on out, I will be following Corey's lead and tagging a bunch of people when I release tweets in regards to the videos that I post. And I hope that when you guys go back and look at those tweets, you'll look at that list of people and give all of them a follow, give all of them a listen. If you like them, awesome. If you don't, hey, at least you tried, but at least it gets everybody out there, and we can try and grow this thing. We can try and connect a little bit more, and we can just try and make this thing just something really, really special. So, 2018, let's change the game, you know what I'm saying? So, with all that being said, once again, I'm your host, the Taxman. Shooting blanks now, but that's okay. Take care of yourselves and each other. Good night, everyone. Have a good one.